Okay, so I just want to back up a little bit to the end of chapter 6, where under the section, the 8 aspects of emptiness. So this whole, the whole Heart Sutra, is laid out so that it also explains how people on the Bodhisattva path practice the perfection of wisdom. So the very first section, when Avalokiteshvara responds to Shariputra's question, where he starts out, form is emptiness, form is empty, emptiness is form. That's for people on the path of accumulation and path of preparation. That's where the explanation for them begins. Okay. Then here on page 38 of the text, under the 8 aspects of emptiness, where it says, therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty, they are without defining characteristics, they are not born, they are not, do not cease. Yeah, that's where it starts the explanation for people on the path of seeing. Okay, so let me just see, did I have another note about that? No. Okay, so then let's go back to where we were, which was at the beginning of chapter 7. Okay, so here the first section is the emptiness of all phenomena. Okay, so this section here, therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, and so on. That starts how to practice the perfection of wisdom on the path of meditation. So you can see at the beginning, with the beginning bodhisattvas on path of accumulation, path of preparation, there's a much more of an explanation, even in this abbreviated form. Form is empty, emptiness is form. And so there's some showing there about how the two truths are not contradictory, how to meditate on emptiness, implying how to also see that emptiness is free from the two extremes of absolutism and nihilism. So it talks about the form, form's a conventional truth, it's a dependent arising. Okay, and then when it gets to the path of seeing, that's when, first of all, on the entryway to the path of preparation, the second bodhisattva path, is having a union of serenity and insight focused on emptiness. So this is a conceptual, inferential realization of emptiness. Okay, then on the path of seeing, at that point you are realizing emptiness directly, and that's the first time you realize it directly. That's also the beginning of the 10 bodhisattva stages. Then this one, so that one with, where were the lines that it, anyway, so there the explanation was shorter, there are no characteristics and so on. So it's also saying, giving more information about, in emptiness there's no characteristics, and so it's giving you more to see things that there aren't, yeah, and how things don't exist by their own characteristics. Yeah. Because we tend to think things exist by their characteristics. Their characteristics are what make them what they are, and what they are is just their characteristics, the sum total. This is, this is black, it's hard, it tells time, all those characteristics, and that's those things put together. Then you have a clock, and we look at the clock, and of course it's a clock because it has those characteristics. Yeah. So the path of seeing, to jump there, you're saying, hey, no, it doesn't exist by having its characteristics ultimately. Okay, on the conventional level, yes, the clock has characteristics. But when you search for what the clock is, you don't find its characteristics. Yeah, conventionally, when we just look, what is the clock? Then what are people going to say? Oh, it's this black thing that's about 1.5 inches by 3 inches, and it tells time, and it has a battery inside, and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, so somebody would describe the clock to you. Those are its conventional characteristics. But when we search for what exactly does the word clock refer to, yeah, then we don't find any of those characteristics. Yeah, we just find their absence. It doesn't exist by its own characteristics. Okay, so that's to get to path of seeing. Now, path of meditation is, well, first of all, on path of seeing, you start overcoming and eliminating the acquired afflictions. So the acquired afflictions are the ones that we've learned through learning false philosophy, false theories, and things like that. Okay, so something as deeply embedded in many people as the idea of a creator, from the Buddhist viewpoint, that is an acquired affliction. Yeah, because somebody taught you, oh, there was God, and God did this, and God did that. Yeah, so that's something, that when you first realize emptiness can be overcome, or I should say, not just overcome, but completely eradicated from the mind stream. Okay, but the innate afflictions, those ones that are even more deeply embedded, yeah, that we don't have, necessarily have to learn theories about in order to have them. Things like ignorance, anger, attachment, jealousy, arrogance, those things, yeah, those innate ones are not eliminated on the path of seeing, but they are eliminated on the fourth path, the path of meditation. So at the beginning of chapter 7, yeah, where we're starting with the passage, therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition, no factors, no consciousness. There is no I, no error, and so forth and so on. Listing there, it's just listing the things that are empty. It's not even giving a tinge of explanation. It's saying all these things are empty of inherent existence. And when you realize emptiness, there's no form, does not appear, feelings, discriminations, all these things, none of that appears to the mind directly realizing emptiness. So kind of two things, that those things in the list lack inherent existence, and when you perceive emptiness directly, those things are not appearing. Okay, so just emphasizing what the direct perception of emptiness is. But also saying, look, it's not just form, and it's not just the aggregates. It's, because the aggregates are classifications, yeah? And the problem with negating something that's very big and expansive is you sometimes forget to apply it to the instances of that general category. Yeah. So here in this section, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no, then you're saying, okay, well, what is in form? Okay, there's seeing, sound, smell, taste, touch, those kinds of things. Yeah, and then you're negating the sense faculties that perceive them. Yeah? And then the consciousnesses. So you're going through this list of actually the 18 constituents, yeah, and saying that all of these things are empty, and when emptiness is realized directly, none of these things appear. Okay? So, yeah, there is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There is no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomena. Yeah, phenomena here are the mental objects. There is no I element and so on up to the element of mental consciousness. Okay, so that's talking about the conscious, the 6 consciousnesses that perceive things. Okay, including up to no element of mental consciousness. Okay, so there it's really going through the list, yeah. So the first sentence reaffirms the emptiness of the 5 aggregates, while the next sentence extends this emptiness to the 6 faculties, the 5 sensory which the 6 faculties, okay, or sometimes it's called the 6 sources, so the 5 sensory faculties and the mental faculty, yeah. The subsequent, those were the 6 faculties, not the sources. Okay. The subsequent sentence extends emptiness further to external objects. Okay, so the sensory basis of form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental objects. Yeah. So those, when it talks about those, it's talking about what the sources, well, it includes the faculties, but for the mental consciousness, the faculty, that acts as the trigger for the mental consciousness is the sense consciousnesses, or a previous moment of the mental consciousness, okay? Because your mental faculty, it doesn't have, something here on your head or your body that you can point to, that, that's how my mind gets information. It's through the senses and through its previous mental consciousness. Okay. The final sentence extends this further to the emptiness of the 18 elements, culminating with there being no element of mental consciousness. So when they talk about the 18 elements, they're broken into 3 different groups. One is the 6 objects, okay, then the 6 sense faculties, and then the 6 consciousnesses. Yeah. And they say that if you suffer from arrogance, that a very good antidote to that is to meditate on the 18 constituents and see if you can understand them. Okay, they're nice sounding lists. Oh yeah, I get it. But I guess when you think you got it, you haven't gotten it. Okay. Okay, so all phenomena, including non-composite phenomena, or it should be unconditioned phenomena, such as space, are included within these categories. Thus, all phenomena are devoid of inherent existence. Okay, so whether something's impermanent or permanent, impermanent things are transitory, momentarily transitory. They're created by causes and conditions. Permanent things are not created by causes and conditions. Yeah. They don't change, but they also don't arise. They come into being, yeah, when you're talking about negating something else. Yeah. Okay. So then the text, then the text continues. There is no ignorance, there is no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. So this is a summary negation of the 12 links of dependent origination, in accordance with their sequence of evolution within the chain of an unenlightened existence. So as we learned when we studied these, there's many different ways of explaining the 12. Many different sequences, many different groupings and a way of explaining. And each of those kind of gives you a different slant on them and how these things relate to each other and how they, cause our samsara, how we create the causes in each lifetime for more and more rebirths, and how at the time of death of one lifetime, the craving, clinging, and renewed existence ripen and throw us into the next rebirth in samsara, where we create more beginnings of more sets of 12 links. Okay, and so studying that also enables us to see that if you, because there's the forward and the reverse sequence of each, so the forward one of the afflictive would see how when there's ignorance, then it leads to karma and up to aging and death. The reverse of the afflicted one, as if you have aging and death, then what's the cause of that? You go backwards. The cause is birth. What's the cause of birth? Renewed existence, and you go backwards, okay? So that's talking about the afflicted forward and reverse versions. When you talk about the purified one, then you're saying you're starting off the forward of having eliminated ignorance, then you eliminate karma, then you eliminate consciousness, and so on, up to then there's no aging and death. And the reverse of that is if you have the cessation of aging and death, it's because you've ceased birth. And if you've ceased birth, it's because you've ceased renewed existence and going backwards. Okay? Remember? Kind of. Maybe. Have you meditated on it? Do you, when you hear those 18, do you go, oh, that's the story of my life? Or do you go, oh, that's some nice, kind of list of things that sounds good when you hear it? Do you really sit there and think that this is explaining how I got here, and why I'm the person I am, and who in the world is this I that it's all about? Okay. So that's the way to, at first when we meditate on the 12 links, it takes a while just to learn what they are, and then the various combinations of how they, go together, which ones are afflictions, which are karma, which ones are results, and how this goes. So that takes some time. But then you really have to sit with it on the cushion and, this is the story of my life. Now, I think the story of my life was, I was born on such and such a day to these parents, and I grew up in blah, blah, and, and then I had a tricycle, and, and then my trauma started, and I'm just a, traumatized kid who didn't, why am I traumatized? Because I didn't get everything I wanted. Yeah? That sounds kind of what trauma means nowadays. Yeah, when I talk to all the young adults who come here and they tell me they all suffer from trauma. Yeah. Like, what did the people who were crossing this continent on covered wagons, did they have any trauma? Oh no, they just rode on a horse in a covered wagon. But me, I didn't get everything I want in my middle class life. I'm traumatized. And I got spanked sometimes and reprimanded and told to shut up. Oh my God. It's incredible what we hang on to. Now, if you had asked me to talk about this when I was 20, I would have said, oh, I have so much pain, and my pain is so serious because of da, 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 da. And now, thank goodness, over 50 years later, I'm looking back and going, God, was I a mess? Just totally everything, me. I didn't get what I want. I got what I didn't want, how much I suffered. Come on, compared to what other beings experience in samsara, I had a fantastic life. Yeah? When you really think about it, I don't know about you, but I think of, what would it be like to have Donnie as a father, or to have Lauren Bobert as my mother. It's like, for as many problems as I had with my mom and dad, most of which were coming from me and my rebelliousness, they were good parents, They didn't do what some of the other people are doing, yeah? So, yes. Like I said, if you had told me that at 20, I would have told me, you're not understanding me. I need empathy. I need understanding. I need somebody to love me and tell me I'm okay. Yeah, anybody else? Anybody else like that at 20? Yeah. 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 How about at 30? Were you still at 30? 40? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, your practice helps. Hopefully it's not as strong as it used to be. Yeah. Yeah. And the best training ground, I tell you, for letting go of that stuff is being the abbess. It is the most perfect training ground. You just have to put all of that aside, Yeah. Because what I say to myself is the rules are different. Yeah. You have to be, you're a common person, but you have to get over some stuff to function in the role that you're in, If every time I didn't get what I want, I broke down and started crying, and if Venerable Tarpa and Venerable Thubten did that too, the three of us working on the Buddha Hall, we would have flooded this place. all the time, you know, and you just can't do that, yeah, when you're in certain roles. So you have to change. Who's gonna be next when I go? Then I will quote my mother, then you will understand what I went through.
Just you wait.
Huh?
Just you wait.
Yeah, just you wait. Then you will understand. And what was it? Wait until you have children. Yeah, so I didn't. Except now. Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the Heart Sutra. Okay. So, it's a summary negation, and just the first two are mentioned explicitly in the Heart Sutra, and the last one, but it implies everything in between. And then we have a list of them, which we did last week. Okay, so the negation of these 12 links describes the process of attaining nirvana. Okay, so the negation, it could mean using inherently existent ignorance, existent karma, as the object of negation. Or it could mean when you directly perceive emptiness, you don't see these conventional things. Although both the process of taking rebirth in cyclic existence, or samsara, and the process of gaining freedom from it do exist on the conventional level, they do not exist on the ultimate level. Thus, they are negated here. Okay? So there is no inherently existent ignorance. What? It's the root of my samsara. It should be inherently existent. Oh, you think inherent existence exists? If it exists, then yeah, you should have inherently existent ignorance. And if ignorance exists inherently, Buddhahood is impossible. Liberation is impossible, because something that exists inherently does not interact with other phenomena, thus it cannot change. Okay, so if ignorance couldn't change, you would always be ignorant. It would be, not just an innate affliction, but it would be an inherently existent innate affliction. Okay, so, but, ignorance is an adventitious defilement in that it is not inherent, in the nature of the mind being clear and cognizant. Okay, so ignorance can be eliminated by realizing emptiness, which is the opposite of the inherent existence that ignorance grasps and apprehends. Okay, so although the 12 links exist on the conventional level, they don't exist ultimately. The text goes on to read, likewise, there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path. What are those? The four truths, okay. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and even no non-attainment. There's no non-attainment. There's no wisdom. There's no attainment. My non-attainment inherently exists. I'm never going to have attainment. He says there's no attainment either. And there's no wisdom. You're right, I don't have any wisdom. Yeah. So, no, what it's doing is, okay, the four truths are not inherently existent, but even the wisdom that we are cultivating in order to realize emptiness, that wisdom itself is empty of inherent existence. Okay? So we can't grasp on, to some inherently existent wisdom. Okay? Now, somebody's going to say, oh, but you said that we already have some wisdom. It's a mental factor in our mind. Doesn't that mean it's inherently existent? It's inherent in my mind? No. Yeah, the wisdom is part of the Buddha nature, the developing or evolving Buddha nature. The question comes, why are the virtuous mental factors in the nature of the mind, the conventional nature of the mind, but ignorance, anger, attachment, and the non-virtuous ones are not? I mean, this is good news, isn't it? Yeah. But, why is that? Well, the non-virtuous ones are not in the nature of the mind, because when you've realized emptiness, you can contradict those. Though when you've realized emptiness, you no longer have, when you've realized emptiness and meditated on it for a long time, then you can erase those afflictive mental factors from your mind. But the realization of emptiness does not contradict the virtuous ones. Okay? So, for example, even if I'm apprehending the Buddha, let's say, as inherently existent, and an offering I want to make as inherently existent, myself as inherently existent, I can still make offerings and they would create virtue. Okay? Even though these things are appearing to me inherently existent, at that moment I'm not grasping them as inherently existent. Okay? Yeah, there's no grasping at that mind when I have a virtuous mind, let's say, that wants to make an offering. If I'm making an offering of, I'm going to put this on the altar and then take it down at lunchtime because it's really good and I want to eat it. And by the way, if I offer it, I'll create some merit, but the real purpose is I need to put it somewhere so nobody else eats it before I get to it at lunch. And if it's on the altar, nobody else will eat it. Okay, so if you offer with that mind, that's a non-virtuous mind, isn't it? It's a mind of greed, and it's manipulating, getting the three jewels involved in our deceit, and our manipulation. Yeah, so that's a non-virtuous mind. And that's apprehending all these things as inherently existent. Yeah. So if you realize emptiness there, then those kind of minds are going to get canceled right then and there, not entirely eradicated from the mind stream, but when you see something as empty of inherent existence, then the anger or the greed that is based on that ignorance doesn't arise manifestly in the mind at that time. Okay? Yeah, sounds good, right? Yeah. Can we find a mind apprehending inherent existence when it's manifest in our mind? Yeah. Can we have even trouble, recognizing, well, anger, you can recognize. Attachment, can we even recognize attachment when it manifests in the mind? Do we say, oh, that's attachment? What?
Not until it revs up.
Until you...
Revs it when it cranks up?
Yeah. If it's revved up. Oh, I say revved up. I didn't hear. If you're really like, I want this. But even then, when you want something really bad, do you say to yourself, oh, that's attachment? That's an affliction? No, that is a need. I need that. Yeah, it's not a want anymore, it's become a need. And if I don't get it, I'm gonna, shrivel up and die. Yeah. So, maybe you're not gonna shrivel up and die if you don't get the chocolate. But, okay, if you want something emotional from another person, and they're not in that mood and giving that to you, then it's like, but I need it. Right now, I need somebody to understand me. I need somebody to Boy, that's attachment, don't you think? Yeah? And that one, oh boy, you can do a nice pity party on that one. Yeah, everybody throw a pity party. This was one of my main pity parties in my late teens, early 20s. Nobody understands me. Anybody else have that pity party? Yeah, I just want somebody to understand me. Yeah. Well, the Buddha did, but I didn't know the Buddha then. Yeah, you should have come earlier. Where were you? Well, yeah, I showed up at the right time anyway. Okay, so the text goes on to read, likewise, there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. So this begins with the negation, again from the perspective of thoroughly realized emptiness, of the first turning of the Dharma wheel. So the four truths, the truth of suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation. Thus, meditative practice is negated. I've been taught that I have to meditate. I mean, there's the wisdom arising from hearing, thinking, and meditating. I must admit, now they say there is no meditation, What's going on? Okay, and there's no wisdom. And then you hear some other schools say, it's enlightenment without meditation. Yeah. Some people, if you study Dzogchen or something, enlightenment without meditation. Are they saying, does it really mean you don't meditate? No, the sages in that lineage definitely meditated. I think what it's meaning is you don't grasp your inherent existence, the inherent existence of meditation. Okay. My meditation. Yeah. I've got to meditate. And so you sit down and you close your eyes and your mind wanders and you say, now I'm doing my practice. Okay. So thus the meditative practice is negated when we negate the four truths. Next, the fruition of this practice is negated. Okay, when we practice, we would develop wisdom and attainment. Okay, so those are negated by affirming the emptiness of the subjective experience. So the consciousness, the wisdom consciousness, the consciousness with attainment, when he's talking about subjective experience, he means the consciousness or the person, those are not inherently existent. Even the resultant state of clarity that arises from clear penetration into the perfection of wisdom is itself empty of inherent existence. Okay, so even full awakening lacks inherent existence. Yeah, the Buddha's wisdom doesn't inherently exist. nothing about the Buddha inherently exists. Okay, it's all phenomena. Yeah. All of the qualities of the mind of one who has reached nirvana or attained the supernatural powers of a Buddha, these are empty as well as well. Oh, these are empty as well and are consequently negated here. Okay? So everything across the board. Then the next section is talking about nirvana. So now the text says, therefore, Shariputra, since bodhisattvas have no attainments, they have no attainments? I thought bodhisattvas had attainments. So they're not negating conventionally existent attainments, which bodhisattvas have, the Arya bodhisattvas, but there's no inherently existent ones. Because inherently existent attainments, they would have to, since they are not produced by causes and conditions, they can set each themselves up, then they must have been there forever and ever, and then, somehow they weren't there, but they were there, and then they are there again. Yeah. So it's, if they're inherently existent, it doesn't make sense. Therefore, so this under nirvana, therefore, Shariputra, since bodhisattvas have no attainments, they have no attainments, but what do? They rely on the perfection of wisdom and abide in it. That's an attainment. Okay, what's the attainment that was negated in the first part of it? Inherently existent attainments. But bodhisattvas rely on the perfection of wisdom, meaning it exists, and that perfection of wisdom is a consciousness. It's the consciousness realizing emptiness. And they abide with that wisdom. So having no obstructions in their mind, they have no fear. And by going utterly on beyond error, they will reach the end nirvana. Okay, so having no obscuration, because on the path of meditation, what are they doing? They are eliminating all the innate afflictions. The acquired ones were eliminated previously, path of meditation. So this section on nirvana is called, the section is the way to attain the path of no more learning. Mm-hmm. So previous section was path of meditation. Now you're getting to the end of the path of meditation. So it's talking about the way to attain the path of no more learning. Path of no more learning in the bodhisattva vehicle is Buddhahood. The path of learning in the Shravaka and solitary realizer vehicles is arhatship. Mm-hmm.
I just heard you say that the acquired afflictions were eliminated on the path of meditation, and that's not what you meant to say.
Yes, the acquired on the path of seeing.
Yeah, you meant to say
path of seeing. And on the path of meditation, you're eliminating the innate ones. Okay. So, to continue on here, this section about how to get to the path of no more learning. In the context of the Heart Sutra, we understand nirvana to be the ultimate nature of one's mind at a stage where the mind has become totally cleansed of all mental afflictions. Okay, so there are different interpretations of what nirvana is. Okay, here if we talk about the nirvana of overcoming the afflictive obscurations, and is, what you all very often find, especially when they talk about the Four Truths, is the truth of cessation, is the absence, it's the eradication of what used to exist, ignorance and all the 12 links, okay? So you can say, some people say nirvana is the eradication of things that used to exist. Yeah, the 12 links used to exist. Now they've been eradicated. So that's the state of nirvana. Yeah. Then what His Holiness is saying here is, that state of something, or wait a minute, let's continue here first. This is why there's a debate about it, okay? Is nirvana the cessation of something that used to exist? Some schools say yes. That His Holiness is saying, actually, nirvana is the emptiness of the mind. Okay? So the cessation of something that used to exist is different than the cessation of something that never existed. Yeah? What never existed? The inherent existence of the mind. Okay? So when you talk about nirvana being a cessation, yeah, it's referring to the emptiness of the mind. Okay. Now somebody's going to go, okay, the emptiness of a mind is a non-affirming negation. It doesn't affirm anything. Yeah. And it's not the negation of something that used to exist because the inherent existence of the mind never existed. So then somebody's going to say, well, if my mind has always not been inherently existent, and the cessation of samsara is the emptiness of the mind, then I've had true cessation all along. What's the difference? Because they're both, aren't they both just non-affirming negations? My mind was empty before I attained liberation. My mind is empty, after I attain liberation. They're the same emptiness. Emptiness is emptiness. Yeah? Well, to the mind directly perceiving those two emptinesses, you cannot distinguish them. Yeah, the mind perceiving emptiness, it doesn't matter what the emptiness is of, that mind perceives just emptiness. Okay, because this is a direct perception. We're no longer talking about inferential ones. Okay? So, this is the question I asked His Holiness, well, wait a minute, why is all of a sudden it's the emptiness of the mind, that's cleansed? But it was empty before it was cleansed, What's the difference? So the way His Holiness explains it is they're both emptinesses, okay, but it's different, the outcome of realizing the emptiness of a mind that's never been inherently existent is different than, I don't feel like I'm saying this right. Let's read what His Holiness says, okay? But basically what it is the emptiness of the afflicted mind and the afflicted mind are one nature. Okay? When you're realizing the emptiness of the afflictive mind, you're realizing that emptiness. The afflicted mind does not, appear. But it's the emptiness of an afflicted mind. And the emptiness of an afflicted mind, at least conceptually, is different than the emptiness of a mind where the afflictions have been eradicated. Okay, in other words, because the mind that we're talking about, the emptiness of those two minds, because the minds are different, the emptinesses of them are said to be different. So the emptiness of the mind that has cleansed the afflictions, that emptiness is true cessation. Okay? And then I said, I remember I asked him, well, why is the emptiness of the mind the one that's emphasized so much here? Because usually it's the emptiness of the self that, they say that that's easier to realize than the emptiness of the aggregates. So you start out meditating on the emptiness of the person, not the emptiness of the aggregates, like the emptiness of the consciousness. But here, we were told meditate on the emptiness of the self, but nirvana is the emptiness of the consciousness, which is an aggregate. Why change? So that was kind of my question to His Holiness. And he said, and it was like after he said this, I went, duh, but somehow I didn't see this before. He said, because at that point, when the mind is realizing the emptiness of the pure mind, of the mind that is free from afflictions, the mind is realizing its own true nature in its purified form. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, it's going to be different. When you meditate on the emptiness of the purified mind, even though experientially it's going to be just perceiving emptiness like the emptiness of the contaminated mind, the polluted mind, but, probably when you come out of the meditation, that's when you see the difference. It's like, oh, there's the purified mind, and it too is empty. So the relative mind is free of the obstructions, the adventitious obstructions. So is the ultimate nature of the mind. So I haven't experienced this, so I'm talking about how I imagine it being. Let's read what His Holiness says. Yeah. In the context of the Heart Sutra, we understand nirvana to be the ultimate nature of one's mind at a stage when the mind has become totally cleansed of all mental afflictions. As we have seen earlier, it is because the mind is innately pure, which is to say it has Buddha nature, that simply removing the obscurations to clarity reveals awakening. Thus, the emptiness of the mind is said to be the basis of nirvana. It's natural nirvana. Okay, so the emptiness of the mind is the natural nirvana. Yeah, and that's the basis of realizing the nirvana. That's the cessation of, when you're realizing the ultimate nature of that mind. When an individual goes through a process of purifying the mind by applying the antidotes, wisdom, to the mental afflictions, over time, the mind becomes totally free of all these obscurations. The emptiness of this undefiled mind is the true nirvana, or liberation. Okay, so because the mind is different, the emptiness of the mind is different. And definitely when you come out of that meditation, you're different. Yeah, because, you know, the purified mind is realizing its own nature. When has that ever happened in your lifetimes since beginningless time? Like, never. Okay? So the emptiness of this undefiled mind is the true nirvana, or liberation. Thus, one can attain liberation, true nirvana, only through actualizing the ultimate nature of the mind in its perfect and unafflicted state. Okay, so because we're talking about the emptiness of the mind in two different states, those emptinesses are different. Yeah, not experientially to a direct perceiver, but just conventionally, they're different. Yeah? Because you have the emptiness of your afflicted mind right now, but you haven't, the emptiness of the purified mind.
And because the mind is going through these levels of subtler and subtler purification, that totally purified mind comes right at the path between the path of no more learning and Buddhahood, right? When the cognitive obscurations are purified.
Yeah. Well, you can talk about it, nirvana, in terms of eliminating the afflictive obscurations, which for the Shravakas and solitary realizers would be their moment of going from the path of meditation to nirvana, to path of no more learning. Okay, but for bodhisattvas, that happens when going from the end of the, it happens on the 8th bodhisattva ground. So it happens a little bit later. That's when you eliminate the afflictions. For the bodhisattvas, the true nirvana is going to be the emptiness also of not just the afflictive obscurations, but the cognitive obscurations. And that's where, independence on the Vajra concentration at the end of the continuum of a sentient being, when you eradicate the last little bits of afflictions, where you go from the end of the path of meditation to Buddhahood, which is the path of no more learning.
Which is then the nature of the mind in its perfect and unafflicted state.
Yes.
That's the truly purified, that's the purified mind.
Yeah, when you're talking about everything being purified, then that's Buddhahood. When you're talking about the afflictions being canceled, that's arhatship. Okay? Yeah?
Venerable, when you realize your Buddha nature is the same nature of the nature of the mind? I mean, the realization of the nature of the mind?
The Buddha nature, there's two kinds of Buddha nature. So one is the emptiness of the mind. So that's what your wisdom realizing emptiness perceives. That, is that emptiness. Then you have the other component is called the evolving Buddha nature. And so those are the things, the components, in your mind that either neutral or virtuous that can continue on to Buddhahood, that are not eliminated by realizing emptiness. So that evolving Buddha nature, you would realize the emptiness of that, but the evolving Buddha nature is not emptiness. Okay, the natural nirvana, the emptiness of the mind is that. Okay.
So can we say that, can I understand this as the process of this getting to true nirvana, in the meditation, you're changing the focal object through, but the aspect is not changing. The aspect is the emptiness of inherent existence.
When you're talking about the direct realization of emptiness, you're not changing the basis of the emptiness. Yeah, because you may start out with the basis. I'm meditating on the emptiness of the mind or the emptiness of the eye, whatever it is. But when you have a direct perceiver, all that's appearing is emptiness. Okay, when you have an inferential realization of emptiness, it's different.
So for example, like somebody on the path of accumulation has the full set of obscurations because nothing's been cleansed.
Yeah.
Once you get to, so the emptiness of that mind, the focal object is this mind that has all these
obscurations.
Then you get to the path of seeing when you start eliminating, and then cessation starts from that point, and the afflictive obscurations starts. So that focal object has changed to, the object has changed from one that is full of obscuration, afflictive obscurations and cognitive, and now the afflictive obscurations is reducing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The basis of the meditation.
Yes.
The basis of the emptiness has changed.
Yes.
Yeah, that has changed, but you're meditating on the emptiness of the mind. Yeah, and the basis of that emptiness has changed. Yeah.
When it gets to Buddhahood, that's when everything is cleansed, so that basis or the focal object is now free of all obscuration.
No, the focal object, is going to be the mind. Yeah, and its emptiness is the emptiness of that mind.
Yeah, the emptiness is an aspect of that focal object.
It's a character.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's apprehending the emptiness, but the base object has changed throughout the path.
Except you're not apprehending the base object at that time.
Yeah, so but you're apprehending the emptiness of it. So the emptiness of it is the characteristic or the aspect is the same throughout the whole path. But what is changing is the basis.
Yeah. What is changing is the conventional mind.
Okay.
Yeah, the conventional mind is changing.
My point is, the Mikpa has changed. The Mikyu has changed, but the Zindang Yu is not changing. So
in one way, If you're meditating on the emptiness of the mind, then yes, that is. But if you're meditating on the emptiness of the self, then your migpa, your focal object is the self, and and the emptiness of the bell, the focal object is that bell. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Yeah. Okay. But the point is, what are you apprehending? You're just apprehending the emptiness.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's because, the base of the emptiness, is different in the two. Okay, so the emptiness of this undefiled mind is the true nirvana or liberation. Thus, one can attain liberation, true nirvana, only through actualizing the ultimate nature of the mind in its perfect and unafflicted state. Okay. So the wisdom realizing emptiness is the means to do that. Yeah. As Nagarjuna explains in the fundamentals of the middle way, emptiness is thus both the means of eliminating the mental afflictions and the resultant state that one arrives at after having done so. Okay, so when it says emptiness is the means of eliminating the ultimate afflictions, here it means it's the object of your meditation. Okay. Emptiness is thus both the means of eliminating the mental afflictions. Yeah, so it's realizing realizing emptiness is the means by which you cleanse the mind, and it's also the resultant state that one arrives at after having cleansed the mind. Okay, so this is part of the debate, is a true cessation an emptiness? If it's an emptiness, are there two kinds of emptinesses? It's a whole big debate. I think maybe, what's his name, in The Two Truths goes into, Guy Newland. Yeah, he may go into that in his book, The Two Truths. You can check it out. It's complicated, so I'm not going to get into it here. Okay, so Nagarjuna writes, through cessation of karma and afflictions, one is freed. So that's how most people talk about true cessation. It's just the cessation of karma and afflictions. In other words, and karma and afflictions existed before, and you're seeing now that they're empty. Karma, afflictions, and conceptualizations all arise from elaboration. There's the elaboration is talking about the appearance or the grasping at true existence. And it is by means of emptiness that elaboration is brought to an end. So by means of emptiness being the object that's realized, and the object that is the emptiness of that purified mind, that then the elaborations of inherent existence are brought to an end. Since all the aspects of one's path to an awakening, one's innate capacity to attain awakening through the path itself, and the results of the path to awakening, all of these are devoid of inherent existence. So because of that, they all possess natural nirvana. So natural nirvana is just the emptiness of these minds, that will go on to, the minds will go on to full awakening. Through cultivating insight into this natural nirvana, one will be able to dispel and overcome the sufferings resulting from the erroneous understanding of phenomena, which is to say, resulting from the fundamental ignorance. Okay, so the point is the fundamental ignorance, that is the root of samsara, that's why it's called fundamental, it grasps at inherent existence. Emptiness grasps, so its object is inherent existence, which never existed, but anyway, it's grasping that. It's dreaming it up and holding on to it. The mind that realizes emptiness sees the exact opposite. Instead of seeing inherent existence and apprehending that, it sees the emptiness of inherent existence and it's apprehending emptiness. Okay, so that's why wisdom can overcome afflictions. Okay, so, all these things are devoid of inherent existence, so they all possess natural nirvana. Through cultivating insight into this natural nirvana, their emptiness, one will be able to dispel and overcome the sufferings resulting from the erroneous understanding of phenomena, which is to say, resulting from fundamental ignorance. Not only can the sufferings, the dukkha, be removed, But even the propensity, the latency for self-grasping ignorance and the imprints left by past ignorant actions can be removed. Thus, one can completely eliminate ignorance in the present, its imprints from the past, and the propensity towards ignorance in the future. Transcending all ignorance, the text goes on to tell us one naturally becomes free of fear, because there's no ignorance, and abides in the final and non-abiding nirvana of a Buddha. So there the text says, all the Buddhas too who abide in the 3 times attain the full awakening of unexcelled perfect awakening by relying on this profound perfection of wisdom. Okay? So, so we have here, I just want to highlight something. Okay. So that is how wisdom overcomes ignorance. That's how before, when we eliminated the afflictions and their seeds were overcome, by the realization of emptiness. Afflictions are mental factors, The seeds are non-composite, abstract composites, okay? We changed the terminology there. Jeffrey's one was way too long. So they're abstract composites. The seeds are, like right now, hopefully nobody's angry. Have you eliminated anger completely? No, because the seed of anger exists in your mind stream. And if I tell you you're all jerks and what are you doing, you should go out and, wash dishes forever, then you're going to get angry, and that seed of anger has now become manifest. So that seed's still there. Okay? So that seed is why whenever somebody says anything that we interpret to be aggressive and derogatory, we get angry. Even somebody is just giving us good advice. Even somebody is pointing out something that exists. If we take it as a threat, right? Yes, I'm working on my arrogance. When people point things out, I'm going to say, yes, thank you for telling me, and then I'll go back and I'll really appreciate them for having told me about this, and I'll meditate on the antidotes, and it really helped me, and I'll overcome the things. And then if somebody just happens to say, oh, you look like you were in a bad mood this morning. They didn't even accuse you of being angry. Just looks like you were in a bad mood this morning. Are you saying that, I'm not this cheery, happy person that everybody loves? What an insult! How dare you say that to me? You think that I'm just angry and ferocious, and ready to get all they did is just say it looked like you were in a bad mood. And we explode. Okay, why do we explode? That's the seed of the anger. Okay, you explode? Yeah. The moment I say something like, the dishes weren't washed very well, even I don't name you explicitly, but you know that you were on dishes that day. Somebody didn't wash the dishes well. I do my job very well. Those dishes are immaculate. Don't you say, let alone insinuate that they weren't washed well. When I do something, I do a good job because I am reliable. Yeah, you're reliably angry. Okay, so all of that has been eliminated at Arhatship for the Shravakas and solitary realizers at the 8th ground for those on the Mahayana path. Okay, but there's still the latencies and the imprints, the appearances of true existence that are there on the mind stream. Okay, so they're still obstructing the mind from being omniscient. They have to be eliminated to actualize Buddhahood. Okay, so what are the latencies? The latencies, that the example that they give explains it much better than I could, because they're the remnants of having had ignorance, anger, and attachment, etc., in your mind. Okay, the remnants you've eliminated. You know, you're the bodhisattva and the path of meditation, 8th, 9th, 10th grounds. Yeah, you've eliminated ignorance, anger, attachment, and their seeds. Yeah, but there's the remnant of having had those things in your mind before. Okay, so the analogy is when you cook onions in a pot, yeah, it smells like onions and it tastes like onions and there are onions in the pot. So the onions are the afflictions and the seeds. You take the onions out, but the pot still smells because it had onions in it. So here, you know, because the mind had afflictions and their seeds in the past, there's still that trace, that propensity to have the appearance of inherent existence. Okay? So it's not the seed, but it's just, you know, there's something still there so that, you know, things are appearing true, inherently existent. The appearance of inherent existence is coming from our mind. It's not that the problem of the appearance of inherent existence is in the object. Yeah, you know, the computer doesn't say, I'm going to appear inherently existent. It just does. Yeah, why? Because my mind projects inherent existence. So inherent existence appears. Yeah, you project it, you see it. Yeah, the seeing it is a consciousness, but the appearance that you projected is not a consciousness. Yeah, so it's one of the cognitive obscurations. Okay. Thus, one can completely eliminate ignorance in the present, the imprints or latencies from the past, that's the remnants, and the propensity towards the appearance of inherent existence in the future. Transcending all ignorance, the text goes on to tell us one naturally becomes free of fear. Yeah, because there's nothing, you know, why do we get afraid? Because of our afflictions. Yeah? If we don't have afflictions, if we don't, you know, then we're not grossly afraid. Yeah? Now, so here fear is, when we talk about non-abiding nirvana, this is the nirvana of a Buddha. It doesn't abide in two different things, okay? One is samsara. It doesn't abide in samsara. Second is it doesn't abide in its own personal nirvana, its own personal peace. Okay, an arhat also doesn't abide in samsara. Okay, afflictions and their seeds are eliminated, but an arhat does abide in personal peace, because an arhat's aim in doing the practice was to attain their own liberation. They may have love and compassion for sentient beings, but it's not the love and compassion that propels them to eliminate all obscurations on their mind so that they can benefit sentient beings most effectively. Okay? So they abide in their personal peace. They stay, this is the party line, that they are, absorbed in the emptiness of inherent existence, and they just remain in that. They no longer take rebirth. Okay? But bodhisattvas and Buddhas appear again in samsaric worlds. Yeah, the arhats abiding in their own personal peace do not, but the Buddhas do, and they appear in all sorts of different forms to guide sentient beings. Yeah, so that's why it's said that, the emptiness of the mind of a fully awakened Buddha, is the non-abiding nirvana. Yeah, it doesn't abide in samsara or in the personal peace.
But come to samsara to guide us.
Yeah, but samsara, we talk about it, the Buddha manifests in samsara. We think samsara is this world. Samsara is our own 5 aggregates. That's our samsara, is our own 5 aggregates. Yeah. This world, was the creation of this world, was influenced by seeds on our mind, karmic seeds on our mind. Yeah. But if our mind is free from ignorance and its seeds, then you can, a bodhisattvas, also appear. The 8th, all the bodhisattvas can manifest. Not all of them, the Arya bodhisattvas manifest, in samsara to benefit others. Yeah. So they're not attached to their own ultimate nirvana, which would be what His Holiness says, you've done all your work, now you have a nice long sleep, meditating on emptiness. Yeah, he's making a joke there. Yeah. Okay. So this is really steering us to, and this is why, when you train with Chinese, Vietnamese, Tibetan teachers, people who follow the Mahayana tradition, right from the very get-go, they're training you to develop bodhicitta. Yeah. Because you need that bodhicitta to get to the final nirvana. Yeah. The non-abiding nirvana. Okay. So, one is free of fear. So when you're in samsara, you have fear of, of rebirth, because, if I'm reborn, then I have aging, sickness, death. I have getting what I don't want, not getting what I do want, losing the things I love. That's the fear of samsara, fear in samsara. The fear of these kinds of bodhisattvas and the Buddha is the fear of not having bodhicitta and being afraid of the arhat's nirvana, because then they would just remain in their meditation on emptiness and not manifest in the world to guide sentient beings. So their compassion is so strong, that what are they afraid of? Not being able to benefit sentient beings by manifesting in the world. Okay? Samsaric beings are afraid for their own welfare. These kind of bodhisattvas, Buddhas, are afraid regarding the welfare of others. So it's different. It's different. Okay. That does not mean we look down on our arhats, because they have realizations we don't have. So our arhats are definitely to be respected. We're just going round and round and round in samsara. They're free of that. Transcending all ignorance, the text goes on to tell us one naturally becomes free of fear, and one abides in the final and non-abiding nirvana of a Buddha. So here's where the Heart Sutra says, all the Buddhas too who abide in the 3 times attain the full awakening of unexcelled, perfect awakening by relying on this profound perfection of wisdom. And then His Holiness says, here in the phrase, all the Buddhas too who abide in the 3 times, the term Buddha actually refers to bodhisattvas of the highest level of spiritual attainment, just prior to the attainment of Buddhahood. This level is called the Buddha level here, So, because when it says all the Buddhas too who abide in the 3 times attained the full awakening of unexcelled, they've already attained it. But these bodhisattvas have the Vajra concentration at the end of the continuum of a sentient being. And how do they go? That's the end of the path of meditation on the Bodhisattva path. How do they go from there to Buddhahood? They attain the full awakening, perfect enlightenment, also by relying on the profound perfection of wisdom, by relying on the wisdom realizing emptiness. So that's even how those subtle obscurations on the mind are eliminated. So here in the phrase, all the Buddhas too who abide in the 3 times, the term Buddha actually refers to bodhisattvas of the highest level of spiritual attainment, just prior to the attainment of Buddhahood. This level is called the Buddha level. A bodhisattva on this level, though remaining systematically absorbed in the meditative absorption called the the Vajra meditative absorption. Adamantine, it's how I'm trying to say Vajra in English. Vajra is easier. Okay, so it's that Vajra meditative absorption. They will possess all of the awakened attributes similar to those of a Buddha. And it's just that little thing at the end, that last bit of dirt. By remaining in this absorption, such a bodhisattva will, in dependence on the perfection of wisdom, attain the final awakening of a Buddha. Okay, so we'll stop here today, and then we'll talk about the mantra tomorrow. By the way, it says in this text, mantram. I don't know, it's always mantra, and this book changed it into mantra, So, mantra, take off the M. The M comes from me. No, I'm joking. Okay. So, if you don't understand much, that's okay. just go over the explanation, try and get the words, the general framework of what the path is and what you're eliminating and what's there naturally and what isn't and how it's eliminated. Okay.